Welcome to Positively Muskegon. It's Andy O'Reilly, and today I am up at the First Congregational Lutheran Church. I got that right?
First Evangelical Lutheran Church.
Evangelical Lutheran Church. I tried. This is Bill Uetricht. He is the pastor up here, and Bill invited me up a couple of weeks ago, and it took me a minute to get here because, believe it or not, I'm kind of busy. And he wanted to talk a little bit about his church, and I am all for the kind of church you guys have here because, you know, I grew up Catholic. It's something we've talked about at length here on, and I've done some other churches here on Positively Muskegon as well. But as churches have evolved, and it's no longer that go to church on Sunday feel. It's no longer that, and that's kind of what I grew up with. And you went to the Catholic school, and that's how it worked, and all that. Your church has really evolved into more of a community-based, community center type thing, and that's kind of what you strive for. So let's talk a little bit about your church here on Whitehall Road. Tell me a little bit about your congregation and everything that goes on.
Yeah, well, we're First Lutheran. The evangelical part we don't use very much, and sometimes people have a certain definition for that term.
Which is what?
Well, for some people that kind of involves a voting block of people, evangelicals. That's not us.
Okay.
That's not who we're associated. The word evangelical refers to good news centered. So Lutherans are known for being centered on grace. Right? And I think that characterizes our community here, that we really think that human beings come broken in a wide variety of ways.
We all are, sooner or later.
And the faith is primarily about this proclamation of a good news that's bigger than our own brokenness.
Yeah.
So that I think we build our community around that notion of grace, which means we think it's very significant to be welcoming folks of all kinds.
Sure.
All kinds of backgrounds. This congregation is particularly good at bringing together people from a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds. We're in North Muskegon. Sometimes people associate North Muskegon with wealth. Mm-hmm. If you hung out at our congregation, you will see that there are some folks with quite a bit of money and a whole lot of folks who are not. And one of the great things about this place is that we bring together the folks from those kinds of different backgrounds. And it's fascinating what happens when folks from different backgrounds, socioeconomic particularly, come together. Also, this is a congregation that brings together folks of a variety of ages. Probably the youngest ELCA, and that's the kind of Lutheran we are, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We're probably the youngest in town, meaning we have lots of families and lots of young children. And so that's a very meaningful part of our community, is the bringing together of generations.
Yeah. It's a big deal, too, because, the young people keep the older ones alive and interested. And, being a guy with grandkids, there's never a better time than when the little ones are around. It's fun. Yeah. And it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you up and moving. It makes you think, man, I'm glad they're not mine anymore, because you can send them home if you have to.
Yeah.
But it's a good reminder of what everybody went through raising kids and stuff like that. But on the other hand, too, there's a lot of wisdom in the older folks, and the connection in family life and in the neighborhoods and all that other kind of stuff. It's just not what it was at one point for that age gap to be filled and that wisdom to be shared.
Yeah, and it can happen in a community of faith like this where that wisdom is shared. We have some intentional programs, including a mentoring program for our confirmation age students, which are normally about 8th grade.
Yeah.
And they're matched up with a mentor from the congregation, some of whom are younger and some of whom are older. And it is amazing the relationships that develop because of that programming, and how both adults, older adults, and children are transformed by those relationships.
Yeah.
I love to watch that, and it has long-lasting impact. We see college-age kids, and then folks who then get older and leave town. They're coming in, and they are when they're coming back, and they're connecting to people, the older adults, and it's an amazing, meaningful process that occurs.
It builds community.
It builds community, and that is at the center of what we're about, is building community.
With that, you have got a remarkable facility here.
We do.
Where a lot of that goes on. I was just here a week or so ago for a luncheon with some retired teachers, part of the campaign. Yeah. I've been here before for, it was another dinner or a lunch or something like that. Talk about some of the other uses that go on here. It's a big building.
It is a very big building, and we use it for the sake of community. We enlarged this building back in 2003, and when we did so, I said, I'm really in favor of this, and there was reasons why we needed to do it, but I'm really in favor of it if indeed this becomes a means for connecting to the community.
Sure.
Well, that has worked big time. We are very much involved in the Family Promise program, which provides temporary shelter for homeless families. We were kind of one of the founders for that movement here in town. And so we have homeless families who stay here. We have a gym, and 4 days a week we have newly retired people playing pickleball, which is
They love that.
which is a phenomenon right now. We have a baton twirling group that meets here. We are the center for a dance studio. And then the Lions Club, the local Lions Club.
That's what I was here
meets
before. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, the Lions Club.
they meet here, and a whole variety of other organizations use this facility, and that's really important to me.
Yeah.
We have groups of young males. I can say they're all young males who play basketball here 3 days a week. And that's been an interesting phenomenon as folks from the community, they're community members. Some of them are connected to the church, but they bring friends. And so they're playing basketball, just a whole wide variety of things that happen in relationship to the community, not just to what we're doing here in the church.
But it's really along the same grain of the evolution of all of the churches. You know, that they need to find new ways to get people through the door.
Yeah.
They need to get away from that classic old mold that I grew up with the Sunday thing, and then, you know, if you make it there on Saturday night, okay, but you know, it's really changed. It's really a different approach.
It is a very different approach, and part of that different approach is to emphasize that what we're about is not simply the folks who are already here.
Right.
There are the folks who are not yet here, and frankly, who may never ever be here again.
They might not.
And that isn't, it isn't our goal to say everybody who walks in this door that they will then be connected to our church. But I would say that sometimes some of them are.
Yeah.
And it's because they've come into the building and they've found a welcoming spirit and a welcoming community and a sense of vibrancy.
Yeah.
And this is a congregation with a lot of vibrancy, and that kind of feeds off of itself.
And if that moment ever comes where they need that church, and they need that outreach, and they need that hand to grab onto, they need to feel safe when they reach out for it.
And frankly, we've seen that in funerals for 16-year-olds and young adults who commit suicide, a wide variety of. We become, because the church is large enough, often they're looking for a place where you can have that kind of service. And so, those folks, when they need something, they come, and of course, and we're open to that. Of course, we also want to invite people into a dynamic relationship with other people, and so that's part of who we are as well.
It's not all in the walls. You got an outreach. Talk about some of this stuff. And you got a really cool one that's kind of in the works, kind of coming out. Let's talk a little bit about some of the outreach you do.
Well, as I said before, we have been very involved with the Family Promise program. So that's the provision of housing for homeless families. We're also involved with an organization called Community and Compass, which is
those guys.
Downtown organization. I happen to be one of the co-chairs of Community and Compass. And right now we're involved in rehabbing a house. And as a consequence of our relationship with Community and Compass, we are in the process of developing a micro-enterprise, a small business, where our youth, in cooperation with the so-called YEPS, the Youth Empowerment Program from Community and Compass.
My dear friend Charlotte.
Charlotte, yes, Charlotte Johnson, wonderful.
Isn't she great?
Oh, she's one of my favorites. We are in the process of developing a hot dog business as well as an ice cream business.
Now we're talking, right?
Yeah, and we will be taking. From what I understand, our first experience with that is going to come at the end of May, down at the museum at the Hackley and Hume homes. And these carts will be going from event to event. With the attempt to, maybe raise a little money, but the primary attempt is to bring communities together, like the YEPs and our youth, And also it's an attempt to help kids learn some entrepreneurial skills. So Ed Wazinski, our youth and family director, has been behind that. It's actually taken a lot of work because you have to go through a lot of hoops with the health department to make this happen. But that's an exciting thing, and I also could see some other things developing downtown that we would be interested in. We have I think I've always felt the downtown's very significant, and I have pushed the importance of advocating for the downtown. And so part of our work with Community Encompass is a matter of sort of advocating for a downtown that is inclusive.
Yep.
And our downtown is really developing right now, and that's very exciting. We also want to make sure folks aren't left out who may be on the fringe of neighborhoods who maybe can't afford the $1,000 and $1,200 rents that may be coming in downtown Muskegon. But we've also been involved in promoting business downtown. We take groups every month to a different restaurant downtown. We're doing one next week at the new 557 Cafe.
Yep.
And that's an attempt to say we want to highlight these businesses. And we were doing that before this became cool, if you will. As an attempt to say we need to build a central area, center part of a city is very significant for its own self-esteem.
Absolutely.
So that's been that's a small and a simple thing, but we show up in a lot of restaurants downtown as an attempt to...
it's kind of a way of throwing a blessing at the business owners as well. Hey, you know what? We're going to get behind you today. And
local business owners.
Absolutely.
And not necessarily large corporations.
Right. So you get talk about your services on the weekend.
Yeah, we have two services. We have a 5:30 on Saturday night, which is a smaller service, tends to be a little less formal, and with good music and I trust good preaching.
Yeah, you would hope.
I would hope.
Nobody's throwing nobody's throwing a shoe at you yet.
Not yet. And then we have a service during the school year at 10:30 on Sunday, which is probably as much larger, maybe more formal, and a lot of the events and a lot of our families show up at that kind of event, that kind of experience, that kind of worship service. So it's both of those are, I think, especially they're both characterized by a sense of vibrancy and welcome, and what we like to call sometimes holy hilarity.
Yeah.
This coming Sunday we do a Holy Hilarity Sunday, which has a tradition. It's a tradition in the ancient church. It goes back to the 1400s when they practiced what was called a Feast of Fools, where they made fun of the church, frankly, for being too serious about itself.
Okay.
So, and the idea of Holy Hilarity, it normally happens the week after Easter, and the idea is that a joke's been pulled on death. And so you spend a lot of time just being silly and goofy. And this year, we are doing a Star Wars themed Holy Hilarity. So we will have lots of people showing up in Star Wars costumes, including these stormtrooper costumes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that should be interesting. We do something different every year. A lot of times I don't know what's going on with it. Some other people plan this event. One of the best ones we ever did, I thought, was when we had a Blues Brothers service.
Awesome.
And one of our members served as the nun from the Blues Brothers, and she was quite effective. So this whole sense of, we're serious about this grace stuff. They're serious about the welcome of others. But part of that seriousness is to be serious about lightheartedness, that the faith really is too significant to make it too serious.
Yeah.
So we like to think that this is a place where people can laugh and actually relax and experience a sense of lightheartedness.
Faith is about your heart being free. Mm-hmm. It's about your spirit being free. It's about your mind being free. Yeah. And if you can add a little bit of that in every week, I think that's just a great. I remember growing up, we had a visiting priest in one time, and you know, it's like you got a crying kid in the back of the church, and the guy stopped halfway through his homily, and he's like, "Tell that kid I work alone." And that stuck with me ever since. And I mean, I was a little kid when he did that, And then as I got older on, we went to church up in Mecosta on Saturday nights. It was Come As You Are, and it was a lake community up there, so everybody showed up in flip flops and shorts and whatever they had on from the day, and it added so much to the service and the atmosphere, and it just took that whole formality thing away from it. And there are people that want the formality, and that's okay.
Well, yeah, and we, for some people, we would be thought to be somewhat formal.
Yeah.
And for some traditions, we would be we're a liturgical.
And some should be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're a liturgical tradition. We follow an order of
Yeah.
service as Roman Catholics do.
Sure.
Sometimes people call us Catholic light.
Right.
But we follow that kind of order. But we all, and there's reasons why we do, and I could defend that a lot. But at the same time, there's a need to welcome some of the gifts of modernity, of modern life,
Yeah.
and that includes different styles of music, and it also includes this awareness that life is entirely too precious to take it too seriously.
Yeah.
You know?
I love the way you think, man. Keep up the good work. Let us know if we can come back.
Yeah, can I say one
Please.
thing more? We do have something. We're really big into drama and music.
Yeah, you
here.
mentioned that before we came
Yeah,
in.
and we have done productions like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat and Godspell and Cotton Patch Gospel. This year we're doing a play by Marty Haugen. It's called The Song of Mark, on May 10th and 11th, Friday night and Saturday, and we have dinner as well as this show. It is the Gospel of Mark put to music, and it's a very, very poignant, powerful presentation of the Gospel with some really good music.
Cool.
And we'll be doing that at 6:30 on both the 10th and 11th of May, Friday and
Ticketed
Saturday.
event, or is it?
It is a ticketed event.
All right.
$15 for a dinner and a show. Now,
Okay.
and you can't beat that.
No, you really
15,
can't.
I mean, you cannot get a dinner and a show for
No.
$15.
Are they StubHubbed out already?
Yes.
They are. All right. You got a link on your website, I'm sure.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we'll find all that and link them
Yeah.
up here for you.
Yeah.
Bill, you're a great guy, man. Thanks
Thank
for taking
you.
a few minutes to talk today.
I appreciate it.
I wish you the
being
very best. Keep up your community engagement work, and like I said, if we can do anything to help your cause out down the line, just give us another holler.
here. Thanks so much for being here.
All the links are right here on Positively Muskegon. Bill Uetricht of the
First Evangelical Lutheran Church.
He got it right there. That's why I got the big bucks in here doing the show.